welcome to the Faces of Carlsbad, Channel 23's program where you meet people that you'd like to know more about, or people that you've known, or people that you've never met before. Anyway, we're sponsored by Intrepid Potash. We're coming to you from the beautiful Foundation building here in Carlsbad, our beautiful city of Carlsbad, and we have a wonderful guest right now, Mr. Dave Morgan. Dave, welcome to the show.
Nice to see you.
This is a program where we're going to get started with your family background, your grandparents, where they came from, if you know where they came from, your parents, where they came from, where you were born, and then we're going to bring it up to what you're doing now and what you like to do in your spare time. So we want you to be relaxed. Now, every so often our cameraman does a Russian dance. And if you see that happening, just smile and ignore him, okay?
I'll do that.
All right. Okay. Tell us a little bit about your family background, your grandparents, for example.
Well, my mother is from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
She's from German-Czech background.
Wait a minute, German-Czech background?
Mm-hmm.
So am I.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And my father's side was German and the mother's side with the Czech Republic.
Well, that's exactly her background.
I'll be darned.
She was born in Shiner, Texas, there in the little Czech community.
Mm-hmm.
And she still spoke Czech with her mother when I was a little kid.
Oh, my.
My dad, he was from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan clan from Florida, Georgia area.
Mm-hmm.
He was a swamp gator hunter in his childhood.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, my gosh, that had to be kind of a dangerous job, though, wouldn't it?
I would think so.
So your parents met where?
They met in Corpus Christi, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right at the end of World War II. My dad returned from the Pacific, and my mother was working at the Naval Air Station there. My dad wanted to leave the Pacific and get to a station that was, as he put it, the furthest away from the Japanese and the furthest away from the Germans that he could find, which was right in the middle of the country in Corpus Christi.
Mm-hmm.
He had been out in the Pacific since Pearl Harbor. He was actually at Pearl Harbor.
He was there when they attacked?
Yes,
Oh,
he
my
was.
goodness gracious.
And was out there for the first 3 years of the war, and then came back in, and he'd had enough.
Was he on one of the ships in the harbor at the time?
No, he was actually a PBY crewman.
Mm-hmm.
Flew in the PBY patrol planes that were actually utilized as bombers during the first part of the war.
Oh, my gosh, and to think about what he went through that particular day.
Yeah, he didn't like to talk about it too much. It was hard.
No.
Tried to get him to go back there for the 50th anniversary, and he just didn't want any part of it.
Well, I was there last year, and I was there a number of years ago, but last year we went, and my wife, my daughter, and son-in-law, and the two boys, my two grandsons, we went over to the Arizona
Mm-hmm.
and went inside the building that they've built on top of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I started crying. I just thought what those men went through. And years ago, I was on radio, and I was in the Navy Reserve here, and one of our officers told me that he and his brother were both on the Arizona when it was hit, and his brother was was pushed forward by the bomb blast and was killed instantly, and he was blown backwards into the water and was saved.
Mm.
And that's a story that I've never forgotten.
Yeah, it was a day full of tragedy.
Yeah. But anyway, they met in Texas.
In Texas, in Corpus Christi. Got married in June of 1945,
Mm-hmm.
and were married until he died in 2003.
Oh, your father passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. We were a big family. I'm one of 6.
Mm-hmm.
One older sister and 4 younger brothers and sisters.
2 and 2?
No, 2 girls, 4 boys.
2 girls. Oh, only 2 girls and 4 boys.
Uh-huh.
Now, where do your brothers and sisters reside now?
They're all in Texas except for one. My little brother's in Virginia, doing things for the government he can't talk about.
No, I know. We interviewed a young man here a while back, and he's also working in that area, Maryland, Virginia. And I talked to him afterwards, and he said, "I can't discuss that. I'm sorry." And I said, "I can understand. I'm not a Russian spy or whatever you want to call it." But anyway, so when did you? Where did you go after as you grew older? Fill us in on the trips, the journey that you took until you got here.
Well, I grew up in South Texas. Corpus Christi is where I was born. My parents made their home there. And we moved around a little bit in the early 60s. Went to Florida for a little while, St. Louis. My dad was a civilian government employee at that point. And he was kind of moving around with the work. He was an aircraft inspector. And ended up back in Corpus Christi by the time we were only gone for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And came back to Corpus, and I was there, graduated from high school there, started college there, and going off to college is what finally got me out of there. Not that I really wanted to leave. It was a great place to grow up. You know, really enjoyed the Gulf Coast.
Did you get used to the humidity?
Yeah, I never knew any different growing up, really.
Well, my daughter says the same thing. It doesn't bother her in Florida, but boy, I can't take that humidity.
Yeah, I go back now, and it's, you know, my mother is still there, and it gets pretty hard to take.
Yeah.
But it was a great place to grow up. You know, just spending the summers out on the beaches. It was back pre-tourist day. You know, and
Corpus Christi is a very beautiful city. I think
it is. It's changed a lot since I was young, but it's grown unbelievably.
So you went on to college where?
Left Corpus, went to Nacogdoches, Texas, to Stephen F. Austin State University. Went there for a couple of years, and then kind of got crazy and decided to take a trip up to Alaska. And
what drew you to Alaska?
I've wondered that many times. I was just kind of looking around. You know, the mountains, northern forests intrigued me, and I just wanted to go check it out. And being young and stupid, I went up there first time, drove up in the middle of winter. And
oh, that's great.
Ended up in Fairbanks after about a 3-week drive, which was a great adventure, you know, going up to California, up the West Coast, seeing all that for the first time. And landed in Fairbanks. It was well below zero, one of their coldest spells of the whole winter. And ended up staying there for 20 years, the first stretch. And then we left. I lived there for 20 years, got married, had kids, did everything up there, and we came back down south for about 10 years. I went back to school, finished up my degree in museum science, and worked at a couple of museums, and then we went back to Alaska at the first opportunity, and we're up there for another 8 years. So total of 28 years in Alaska.
28 years in Alaska.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great adventure. Great place to raise kids.
Yeah, how many children do you have?
I've got 2 boys.
2 boys? I bet they really enjoyed it up there, didn't they?
Yeah. Although they're okay leaving it too.
Oh, is that right?
Winters get long and cold.
Yeah. You have a couple of fairly decent months up there, don't you?
Oh yeah. Best summer anywhere.
June, July, and August?
Yeah, half of May, June, July, August. Yep. Yeah, and September's a pretty month too. That's fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a beautiful place. There's no place quite like it. Had a lot of great adventures.
Well, what's your impression of Carlsbad?
Carlsbad, been here, roughly about 7 months now, and enjoying it. I think it's a great place to live. I'm kind of a small town person. Wherever we go, we end up settling in a small town, even if it's close to a big city.
Yeah.
But we've thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, got a great neighborhood. Love our jobs.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to talk about the job in a moment, but what about your wife now? Where is she originally from?
She's an Army brat. She was born in upstate New York,
Mm-hmm.
but moved all over the country with her dad back during the 60s when he was in the Army.
Mhm.
And she ended up in Alaska as well. 1974, I think, he got stationed up one of the bases outside of Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And when her family finally left Alaska, she stayed on because she had just graduated high school, and she went to the University of Alaska there.
Mhm. Was her father involved in Vietnam?
He did serve a tour in Vietnam. He's a helicopter pilot.
Yeah. A very dangerous job,
Yes.
and as was your dad's job, very dangerous. So anyway, we had all these problems, and you came up to Carlsbad, and you seem to like New Mexico.
Yeah, I love New Mexico.
I do too.
Yeah. I first came to New Mexico. Well, I had driven across it a couple times, but never really spent time here. And then
Mhm.
we came up in the early, it was 2004, I think, with my two sons. They're Boy Scouts, and we went and hiked Philmont for a couple weeks.
Oh,
Did about
yeah.
60 miles up in the mountains there
Yeah.
on foot, and had a great time. Just really loved the countryside. And ever since then, kind of been looking for an excuse to come back.
That's
And
great.
I was real happy to land the position here in Carlsbad.
Well, there's nothing like a New Mexico sunset. Well, people in Arizona will say the same thing there, you know, or California, but it's so pretty.
They've been
Sometimes
really
you
nice
see
here
these-
lately.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, unbelievable. Well, what got you interested in this particular job? You're the head of our museum now, and I'm going to make some comments about the museum in a minute. But fill me in on what drew you here.
I'd just been working in museums since the late 80s. It's just kind of what I do.
Mhm.
And this position came up here, and like I said, I was kind of looking for an excuse to come to New Mexico,
Good.
and was kind of getting to the end of my patience for a long winter, and the timing just worked out real well for me.
Mhm.
We were kind of ready to move, and the position came up, and they offered it to me, so we just said, heck yeah, let's go. And here we are.
Well, the programs that you've put on since you've been here are really quite amazing. They're kind of awe-inspiring as far as I'm concerned. Which ones impressed you the most?
Well, I really can't take a lot of responsibility for that because, you know, I inherited the museum from Patsy Jackson Christopher.
She did a terrific job. She
And
was
She
outstanding.
really
yeah.
did. And she basically had programming set up for my first year.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of had to pick up where she left off and do what I could with it. The Bracero exhibit was a great experience for the museum. I think is a great experience for me personally, as well
Yeah.
as the rest of the museum staff, and hopefully a big part of the community. It's just where we kind of got the opportunity to expand our audience.
Yeah, right.
And reach out, which I feel is real important. We had some great events, brought in some people to give some great talks,
Mhm.
and attendance kind of went up and down, but overall it was just a rip-roaring success, I think.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of good feedback. Our guests who came in to give talks just praised Carlsbad.
Oh,
They
great.
really enjoyed themselves coming here to visit.
Now, this present thing that you have over there, it just blows my mind with the artistic talent of the people we have in this area.
Yeah, it really is amazing. You know, I'm still learning. Yeah, I'm still on the uphill side of a pretty steep learning curve
Mhm.
in terms of
Yeah, right.
finding out what all is in Carlsbad. But the artist community here is vibrant and strong, and really talented. And this exhibit that we just opened this past Monday was essentially inspired by a photograph. I saw a picture of Peggy's horse head, and I just thought right then and there, God, we've got to bring this into the museum. And I've always liked the idea of the upcycle movement, which is basically recycling, upcycling, taking something found or cast off and making art out of it. And these particular horse heads are just incredible.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And as well as a lot of the other stuff in the gallery. I mean, it was an unplanned exhibit, just inspired by a photograph, and I knew we had an empty spot on the calendar, and I thought, well, heck, let's just try to put an exhibit together here in a couple days. And in that sense, it was kind of an organic, homegrown sort of effort. And the community has really risen up and come into the museum and are participating. And right now, we're having to make the space bigger. We've got so much stuff in there. It's packed right now.
It's hard to believe that people are that talented that they can take scrap metal and make such fantastic things out of it.
Yeah, how they see what they see in a pile of scrap is just amazing.
Wow. You have a nice staff over there, though.
I do.
Every time people come in, I've noticed the people working at your main desk, they always greet them with a nice smile. They make them feel welcome.
That's something else I inherited from Patsy. She had built a wonderful staff there, and I kind of feel like I inherited $1 million from her. It couldn't be better.
Oh, she's a remarkable lady. I'll go along with that. She's a remarkable lady. And I don't know, now your family, what does your wife do in her spare time?
Spare time? I don't know that she has any. She's a first grade teacher, and she's sitting on the couch every evening going through her papers until bedtime. If I'd say what she did during her spare time, actually she knits. She enjoys the movies, but she's an incredible knitter. She would sell her wares up in Alaska. She can knit mittens like you wouldn't believe. Just beautiful things. I mean, it's not just run-of-the-mill mittens. They're beautiful pieces of art, really.
Well, that's nice. You're going to have to put her artwork on in one of the display cases someday, right? We'll look into that.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be someplace with a price tag on it.
Oh, okay. Now, what do you do in your spare time? I know you probably don't have much, but do you, for example, you like to read or hike or?
Read. Love to hike. Used to do a lot of hiking. My knees are limiting that a little bit these days, but I enjoy woodworking. I build furniture.
Oh, you do?
Generally try to set up a wood shop wherever I live and take over the garage and make it a shop.
Wow.
Used to fly a lot.
Oh, did you?
Haven't done that in a few years, though. But
you mean you were a pilot?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, something I learned to do up in Alaska. I lived up there for 10 years, I guess, and realized I'd seen about 2% of the state, which is really just about all you can see by road.
Yeah.
And I've always been fascinated with airplanes and flying, so I decided, hey, this is the time.
Well, where did you get your training for flying? Because that fascinates me.
Partly in Fairbanks and partly in South Texas. I worked real hard one summer and saved up my money and went down to Texas and hired me an instructor and got my pilot's license.
Were you ever nervous or when you're flying?
No, it's kind of like riding a bicycle. I mean, flying really isn't that hard to do. I get nervous around weather.
Oh, is that right?
You don't like getting caught in clouds.
Yeah.
But flying, it's just a pure joy for me. It's really fun.
Well, that's fantastic.
I guess I just imagined it enough, as a young person, that when I finally got to do it, I was just totally into it and just flying like a bird.
Well, that's remarkable.
Never did it for any practical reason, although I did commute to one job up in Alaska in an airplane, but essentially it was just something I did for fun.
Did you have your own, let's see, did you ever instruct others in how to fly too?
No, never got my instructor's license. Just private pilot, single engine land.
And the boys enjoyed being with you on those flights?
Well, they weren't born yet.
I see, okay.
Or they were born right about the time I was finishing up my flying.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, do you like to read, you say? What kind of
Yeah.
books do you enjoy reading?
Mostly nonfiction, although I enjoy a good fiction book too. Just read a lot of history.
Oh, yes, well, I can imagine so, yeah.
Currently reading, I can't even think of the author's name, but it's the book Apache. It's a anthropologic look at the Apache
Tribe?
just trying to learn about the native inhabitants of this area here.
Well, you never get tired of reading. Once you get hooked on reading, it's tough to stop. And I would never be able to stop. That's my problem. And I'm with you on that. There are some authors that they just captivate you with the writing that they have. And so, have you been visited any of our Indian tribes at all?
I have not. I've just, I arrived in Carlsbad and went right to work, and that's all I've done since I've been here. We've managed a couple grocery shopping trips to El Paso and Roswell, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to go up there to the mountains up there, visit some of our Indian tribes. You'd find it.
Yeah,
they're
I'd love
very-
to do that,
yeah,
and look forward to doing it one of these days.
No, that's a wonderful place to visit. Ruidoso area, and the Indians who run the casinos up there are so nice and make you feel welcome. And I always
That is the Apache tribe up there too, isn't it?
let's see.
think it is.
I better not say which tribe because they always get mad at me because I'm always saying the wrong thing.
But we are
Mescalero Apaches, yes, you're
Mescalero.
right. Yeah, you're right. Mescalero Apaches. Oh well.
Yeah.
It comes to you every so often, out of the blue, you know. Well, we're really glad to have you here with us because you've carried this thing on so well after Patsy departed for another job that it makes me feel good that Carlsbad is going to be in for some real treats in the future.
Well, I hope so. We're developing a pretty busy exhibit schedule and maintaining the involvement from the community that's been there for several years, I guess, with the Carlsbad Area Artists Association as well as the Quilt Guild. Maintaining all those exhibits, but also trying to build on that and bring some interesting things to Carlsbad. We've got several things already lined up through 2015.
Oh, you're
And,
kidding. Is that right?
So just trying to fill in all the gaps on the calendar.
My gosh. Well, how's that railroad project coming along?
Amazingly, it's they're just about in the middle of constructing downtown Carlsbad circa 1905 right now, and it's really moving along pretty well.
That's going to bring back memories of old television shows like Gunsmoke. You can just see those guys walking downtown with the revolvers on their side, you know. So, and that's in a different room from the major.
Well, it's in the atrium gallery, what we call the atrium.
Atrium gallery.
Yeah, and it will actually be where we talk about Carlsbad history, and we'll use this incredible little diorama that they're building as a setting for that.
Are people allowed to go in and look at it as it's being built?
Certainly, yes. Yeah, we leave the door open, people come in, and Willie or Phil, who are the two volunteers that are primary builders, love to talk.
Oh, good.
So,
Well, I meant the other day when I was in there, I wanted to see some other things, but I was in a hurry to go someplace I can never get my act together on. But I'm going to have to do that. And I think it's beholden to the people of Carlsbad to come by and see what a remarkable museum we have.
well, I wish they would.
Yeah.
And we're doing everything we can to try to attract the community into the museum. There are some pretty major changes afoot there.
Yeah.
In a few months, it'll be different than it is now. We're going to have a great exhibit coming in this summer about bats.
Oh, is that right?
And
Oh,
we'll-
that's going to be great.
We'll be working with
That'll-
Nickery and the Caverns National Park
Yeah.
pretty closely with both with that whole exhibit.
And that one room is dedicated to artwork that from Carlsbad's famous artists of the past, which I always enjoy going in and looking at them again. I do it at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Good.
It makes me feel good that we had such great artists in this area.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to thank you for being our guest today.
Well,
Mike,
my
it's
pleasure.
been a real pleasure, and it's so nice that I accidentally ran into you the other day, and I thought, aha, I've got him now where I want him, right? I can't do any good artwork, but I can certainly rope him in.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here and try to get the word out about the museum.
Well, anyway, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks,
And if
sir.
you need any help, I have just a guy that can help you.
All right. That's
His name
what I
is
like.
Guy Ludman, and he is so talented it's not even funny. Yeah, you could have a display case of his collection. It's unbelievable. Well,
Well,
anyway,
we'll have to get them in there.
yeah, that's right. Get him up, Horsey.
We've got gloves and tools and lots to do.
Well, on behalf of Channel 23, Intrepid Potash, and the Foundation Building, Jim Harrison, and all the nice people who welcome us down here, Jan, the secretary, all I can say is goodbye and good luck. Now,